ways to cut the heart, but on each half of the heart we can see all of the chambers. Now, what we want to do, because it's easy to get lost here, is we want to take a look, we want to orient ourselves. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to look for something we're familiar with. And most people are familiar with the left ventricle because it's the biggest, thickest, most muscular chamber in the heart. And it's easy to find. And it's big and muscular because it's going to pump blood to the entire body. So just looking around here, I can see all this very, very thick muscle here. And that is the thickest chamber. So the chamber is the actual space here. And this is the wall of the heart right here. This is the walls of the chamber. So since this is so thick, I know that this is going to be my left ventricle. And then I just start from there and I work my way out. So I know a valve leading to the left ventricle is going to be the bicuspid valve. And sure enough, that's going to be the bicuspid valve right here. And we can see these string-like structures coming off the valve. They're actually part of the valve. These are called chordae tendineae. And they are attached to muscles here in the wall called papillary muscles. And these muscles actually contract and serve to pull that valve open. Now, if we go further up here, if this is the bicuspid valve, and we know the bicuspid valve separates the left ventricle from the left atrium. So this structure up here, this space here, is going to be the left atrium. Now, if I move over here, I see another muscular structure. Not quite as muscular as the left atrium, but very muscular. This is going to be another ventricle, and this is going to be called the right ventricle. Now again, the right ventricle is going to have a valve leading to it. Now this is the right ventricle, and if we superimpose the heart, if I close it back up, you can see that this is also the right ventricle. I simply cut right through the right ventricle. The same thing goes for this left ventricle. This is also the left ventricle over here. So this is the right ventricle, this is the right ventricle, and again we can see a valve in that right ventricle. So this material right here is going to be a valve. And again, it's got chordae tendineae, it's got papillary muscles. That's going to be a valve. And I know the valve leading to the right ventricle is going to be called the tricuspid valve. Now above this tricuspid valve, and it's hard to see here, but I can put my probe in it, above that is going to be another chamber, another space. This is going to be called the right atrium. In fact, if I put my probe in here, this right atrium is actually continuous with this big, looks like an ear. And because it looks like an ear, they actually call it an auricle. So this is just an extension of the right atrium. It's called an auricle. Now, since we've gone over all four chambers, now we've got to talk about blood vessels. And let's just think about this simply. There are going to be four major blood vessels that we're going to have to talk about and name. And one is either going to enter or leave each chamber. And you just have to know what vessel enters and leaves each chamber. We're going to have essentially two named veins entering the atria and two named arteries exiting the ventricles. So let's go ahead and deal with the arteries first because they're the most obvious. Arteries, because they take blood away from the heart, artery has an A in it, away has an A in it. They're under a lot of pressure, and because of that, they need to be very thick and strong. And we can see that there are two blood vessels. Here's one, and here's another one. And if we look on the other side, again, this blood vessel is just a continuation of this one. This blood vessel and this blood vessel are just halves of each other. They're mirror images of each other, essentially. These are going to be arteries, and I can tell that by looking at the wall of the artery. They're very thick, and also arteries tend to be very round. Because they're so thick and strong, they tend to keep their shape. So, typically an artery will be nice and thick, and it'll be nice and round. Now it's just a matter of naming these arteries. So again, I go to this artery. This looks like the largest artery in the body. But again, I'm not positive, so let's see where that artery actually takes blood away from. So I go down, and again, this is the left